Hey, Hickok 45 here. You know, the only thing better than one AK is one AK and a VZ58. That's what we have here. So let's compare them, okay? Told you I'd do this, so we're going to do it. We've shot the VZ58, and we talked a little bit about how it's different from the AK. So I believe I told you I would get into the guts and we'd look at the differences. Well, let's look at a couple of things on the outside first. Little difference in appearance. As you can see, the VZ58 is a little smaller and lighter, actually. Big difference is the safety. There's what is generally considered kind of an awkward safety or selector on an AK. And we have an empty magazine in this gun. Well, imagine that. Doesn't lock the bolt back. And they don't. That's one thing about the AK. Empty mag, bolt doesn't lock back on the last round. And we have an empty mag in here, bolt locks back. So that is one difference that is very, very obvious that I want to point out. Also, not only that, but if you want to lock the bolt back, it's kind of like an M1 carbine or other guns. You can pull the bolt back, push the duty button, and it'll hold the bolt back. Pretty cool, huh? So it's pretty interesting. And you can check out the other video if you want to learn more about the history of this this fine gun made in Czechoslovakia, the VZ58, probably around the year 1958. My guess is right. And the AK-47 was probably around 1947. Let's take the mags out. They're both empty. It's not a shooting video, so hopefully we're going to learn a little bit. We're going to do a little gunsmithing here. I've got hammers. I've got, I think, all the tools I might need. Screwdriver, little punch, my brass hammer. And I'm always prepared when I'm doing gunsmithing to get out a bigger hammer. It's my dad's old small sledgehammer. I'll probably use that if I need to on this borrowed gun. I wouldn't want to use it on my own gun. Okay, let's see. On the outside, externally, sights are very similar. Now I have replaced the sight here. I've got the peep sight, the Krebs custom on that one, but it generally AKs come with the same sight as this one did. That's I think is the only thing that's interchangeable on these two guns, really. So that's a little different. So why don't we just quick review, take this baby apart. One thing as I'm doing this, I'm going to talk a little bit about, you shouldn't be afraid to take apart a firearm. You know, you want to make sure they're, of course, unloaded and know your limitations. But you're not going to hurt a gun field stripping it, generally speaking. Just notice how they're made, and you need to clean them anyway, of course, the level to which I'm going to take them down here. But I know some people are really wary about taking guns apart. You generally cannot hurt them. Worst thing is you end up at a gunsmith or at a gun shop with a box of parts and have to, with your tail between your legs, and have to ask them to put it together for you maybe. So here's how the bolt is. You've seen this before. The carrier and and the gas piston attached to the carrier, and slides up into the gas tube. And we'll take that apart. You've seen these. Many of you have them, of course. The bolt is a part of course, well, it's not part of it, but slips into the carrier. You got little grooves there that turns as it moves. And you turn a little bit right there and you can pull it out. You can even take the bolt apart. It's rare that you have to do that to service the extractor or anything. It's really rare that you have to do that. But that's your bolt and of course your carrier. And this is, I think, it's screwed and pinned into the carrier. The piston slips up into there. And of course, this is, I've shown you before in another video, the gases push against that as they come up from the barrel, because this goes all the way up, up to here, and you got the hole in the barrel. And of course, the gases come up into there and push that back, forcing a bolt rearward. Okay, we've talked about that. All right, so that's a very familiar sight. You go to gun shows, you see boxes of AK bolts and carriers and all that. So let's look at how this one is a little bit different. Okay, in fact, everything is different. This one's kind of designed from the floor up to be different. To take the dust cover off here, you push this pin over and you push forward. Got ballast all over my hands, so if I can, let's see, I think I need to, before I do that, make sure she's not caught. Yeah, take some of the pressure off. Okay. Yeah, pull this out. Now this is a strange looking affair. Look at that. A little different, you can see already, right? You've got the recoil spring and guide rod there, and this actually goes into the striker. This is a striker fired gun. That's one of the differences. There's not a hammer in here. It's a striker fired firearm. Bolt, pull it back, and pull it out. Okay, bolt and carrier. And you have a milled receiver. You notice it's a little thicker. And the gun, as I pointed out in the other video, is actually still lighter than a stamped AK, even though it has a milled receiver. So, you know, the difference, you know, they take a chunk of metal and mill it out, and so you have more metal in there. Not necessarily better, but some people prefer that. Okay, and then same thing, your bolt and your carrier. You know, you take the bolt out of there. Will or not, it's not a big deal, but it comes out. You got your little locking lugs and everything. It's a different bolt. You know, totally different design. Mainly, I just want to show you it is not the same design. You know, look at the bolt. There's not much in common there. Or the carrier. You know, it's a different animal. And this is where the spring goes up through. In terms of, basically, it's a striker channel, what it amounts to. Okay. And I'm just messing with it, and that's a thing you can do with a firearm. Just know your limitations and kind of fool with these. I noticed how that comes out. It's got a little cut out there. You take it out to clean it, you know, and then you get it turned up there, right back in. And I've done that, of course, once already. I've taken it all apart and cleaned it well. So, as long as you notice how things came apart, you're not going to break anything. You can kind of figure it out. Okay? So, bolt and bolt carrier, quite a bit different. As you can see, not a lot similar there. So I made the mistake myself, calling this an AK variant, you know, initially. It does kind of look like something like an AK, but very different. You got your gas piston here. You don't have the gas piston attached to the carrier on the VC. Okay, 58. So let's take a look at that. See, you got a little pin here. I wonder what that is. Well, let's knock this out. Pull this up. Your gas tube cover there, just kind of similar. Okay, and while we're doing that, let's take this one out. Now I do need a tool on this one. It's pretty stiff. It is it's not a very old gun, and I try carefully not to scratch any more than I have to. The neighbors are over there shooting. Sound like muzzle loader. Isn't that terrible? Should I call the police and complain about the noise? And this up. If that turns just right. There we go. So that's kind of the same piece there, the tube. Except the tube's not there. You know, it's in the carrier. Remember, it's all attached. So that's one of the differences. This is shorter. It's not attached to the carrier. And again, as I was looking at it and trying to figure out how that worked, well, you see how it works. Of course, you still have the hole in the barrel, and you have the gases coming up and pushing the rod back, the piston, and impinges on the you know, the bolt carrier. But it comes out pretty easily. There's a little spring in there, so no problem at all. Spring comes out. So for cleaning, which I did, works pretty well. It's very simple in design, and in fact similar to kind of, I guess, the concept the ARs are going to. You know, the kind of operation, just push it against the bolt. Except this was 1958, right? Vintage. So, I guess the moral of this story is, it is different from an AK. And I've done penance now. I have actually not admitted my mistake in calling it an AK variant. I have kind of shown you how different it is. It really is a different kind of a mechanism. And a nice big heavy carrier. And see if I can get it back in there. You gotta kind of hold your nose right on these things sometimes. There we go. There we go. There's the striker channel. You got to pull the trigger, or release that a little bit. Goes in. And then you got the spring on there goes up into the striker channel. And you got the recoil spring. Get them lined up. And no big deal. There we go. And I don't guess that really matters what you put on first. And normally I finish up with this front part, clean that, put it on first, but I don't think it really matters. Okay, they're all down flush. Looks all right. And let's put this back on. Now this kind of hooks under there. It's kind of interesting. There you go. Now I mentioned to you the owner in the other video had a rail on here with an aim point, and the rail fits in there the same way this does. That's hooks and just comes down and latches on there. Here's a bolt that goes through, and it's just fine too. So that it's an interesting gun. You know, striker fired, milled receiver, no flash suppressor on these guns, and it really makes for a short gun. Stock's a little too short for me, but it shoots okay. Sights are right on, and the grip's a little bit different configuration than most AK grips, a little more comfortable. One thing that's also different is the magazines. Let me show you. We got this ridge on the back. I'm not sure what that's all about. I guess with the spring follower and everything. The mag release is a little different. You know, on an AK you can just kind of push on it with your finger here, but you got to come around here and get a hold of this one. As best I can figure, unless someone has a better trick for that. It pushes forward, and you kind of got to get over here. They got the trigger guard bent there for it, but I don't know if there's any other way you can get to it. So that's how that works. They work well, the mags. You notice they've got a little bit of a lip on them there, so it's very clear how far it goes up in there. And they are made of aluminum. They're very light, and that's been considered one advantage of this gun too, the light magazines. However, with these Bulgarian Circle 10 magazines, which are polymer and they're great magazines, that really ceases to be an advantage, of course. In fact, I like those better. I pointed out in the other video that these are not quite as easy to load, a little more awkward, I think. And the safety is pretty handy. It's right here, you know, and it's easy to operate. You know, like I pointed out on that one how awkward it is. With this one, it's pretty handy. Not as nice as an AR configuration, but not bad at all. And seems to have the same reliability that the AK has. Now this one I think was came through Czech. See, was it CZ USA? I believe that the owner said, and so it's one of the quality. I won't say a rebuild, but you know they got to make them semi-automatic, of course, before they come into this country, and not fully auto, unfortunately. Too bad, huh? And then let's put this one back together and kind of remind ourselves how it works. So put the gas tube back in there. Get it down. Tap gently. Didn't have to get the sledge out yet, did I? Okay. So quite different, quite different. Just tube up through there. Sometimes I end up having to hold my mouth right to get this in there. There we go. Okay. These are fun to take apart. You get them all filthy, and then clean them up, put them back together. This gun has been just totally filthy so many times, but as you see, it's almost like a new one. They always clean up nicely, don't they? Just you can say that for any gun, I guess, but it's always fun to get them all cleaned back up. So different operation. Recoil spring goes up and through that, and it's all one piece through there, and they both work. I know there are some folks who just swear by the VZ58, and there may be some VZ58 snobs out there, right? And it's easy to see why. It is a quality piece. If I had to choose, I'm not sure. I like the AK, and it's such a classic firearm too. It's kind of like a Colt single action, and it's a classic. Someone might have there were some other guns of the Wild West. Here I'm off topic in a way, but I'm not. In the Wild West, there were some other really nice guns, really well made, but they weren't as prolific. They weren't as common. And, so it's kind of like this. There were, I think, less than 1 million of these made. Compare that with how many AKs have been made. And so, for that reason, there's serious history associated with the AK, maybe more than with this. But this gun does have history, and it is really well made. Really wouldn't mind having one, to tell you the truth. Maybe I just won't return this, because it is small and handy. It's like a little M1 carbine. Shoots the same round, of course, if I didn't say that, the 7.62 by 39. And I talked a little bit about that history, how the Soviets made the Czechs put chamber for that round, and almost were not allowed to continue making it because it was different from the AKs. They wanted the AK production, but they did chamber for the 7.62 by 39, the Soviet round, and were able to continue making it. And consequently, we have a pretty interesting firearm. It's kind of classy, isn't it? The lines on it very smooth and small, quite a darling. But that's kind of the difference there. Wanted to show you. And again, you may not have a lot of interest in that particular gun, but I think it's always interesting, and I need to do more of that, to take guns like this apart and just show you how they operate. Whether you're a new shooter or whether you've shot a lot of guns and taken a lot of guns apart, maybe you haven't taken these apart. It's just interesting to see the differences and how the bolts operate, where the springs are, and what makes them work, especially firearms like this that are considered some of the most reliable firearms like on the planet, and most prolific, widespread on the planet. So that we have some ammo. We're not going to dirt him up right now. We'd like to keep ammo handy. You never know what might come slithering out of the woods over there, stumbling through the trees. But we're going to keep them clean for right now. You've seen them shoot, and hope that was semi-interesting to you. Life is good.